Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Min and I'm your co-host today from NDIS Property Australia here in Brisbane with Debbie Kindness, who has flown back into Brisbane for the first time in several years. And you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, show that explains, highlights and guides and brings awareness about all things SDA and NDIS in the ever-changing NDIS world. Today's exciting topic is NDIS Network. A special guest speaker, Tania Gorry from New South Wales, and I'll palm it over to Debbie to run the show and about who is Tania and what she does and the impact she's doing on the NDIS community. So,
thank you, Min, and welcome to the show, Tania. How are you today?
Thank you, Min, and good morning, Debbie. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great, thanks.
Good.
So, Tania, we are very excited to have you on the show today. Lots to talk about. Firstly, can you maybe give us a little introduction about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, I am the owner of Whole Warrior Solutions, which is a business that's a private coaching and counselling practice. And I'm the founder of the NDIS Network, which is my community development project in the disability field.
Fantastic. So how did you get into this? How did this all start?
Well, I'd had a wide and varied career started in advertising and marketing, had a corporate career, 13 years, and then I retrained in the field of welfare. And just tried over the last 20 years to get a well-rounded welfare experience as a practitioner of mental health and coordinator of various services. And I did a long stint, also 13 years in child protection. And coming out of that, I thought, how do I reinvent myself and what am I going to do with all these multifaceted skills that I've got and how can I help people with those? So I started my own business, about 4 years ago.
Fantastic. Okay, right. So it's well established now and you've got a whole bunch of different social networking groups, 12, I believe. What was the vision of getting all this happening?
Well, it started with creating one group. I'm based on the Central Coast, about an hour north of Sydney. And I thought, well, how do I break into the disability field? Like I'd worked with a lot of families with children with disabilities and parents who live with disabilities, as well as complex health issues, mental health and drug and alcohol, etc. And I thought, well, how do I find my people and how do, I meet the other workers that are in the field? So I started a group on the Central Coast, which has now just hit 1,000 members. And and I heard a voice one day and it said to me, go national with this NDIS network. And I'm thinking, why do I want to go national? But I just listened to it and I rolled with the alignment of that voice in my head and my heart matched up with it. And it's rolled out nationally to about 17,000 members as well as followers.
Fantastic. 17,000, that is, wow, that is very impressive. So got a 12 different networking groups, I believe, for investors, for families, for different groups, and these are state-based, some are state-based, some are national-based?
Yeah, most are state-based. Like there's a Sydney one, Sydney and New South Wales. Then there's Central Coast, as I mentioned. Then there's Victoria, Queensland, Tassie, NT, and etc. rolling around the state. And I also have a foster carers trauma-informed network that's got about 1,000 members as well, because I worked in the foster care system so long. So, and the purpose of the groups was to, because I started out as a sole trader, I thought, it's not easy when you're a startup business to find the people that you really need to be networking with. And so I thought, well, there must be other sole traders and startups who are in the same position, we need to meet each other. So that's why I created them, really to help the startups to get some traction and get known in the field, and to find those ethical providers who are really in the space to help people with disabilities and their families.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about maybe some stories that you've come across from all of this networking, all these people that you've connected with. You know, what are the standout stories and things that have happened along the way?
I guess in creating these groups and I've put in hundreds and thousands of volunteer hours into administering and monitoring the groups and helping people get a bit of traction in them. And then out of that came events where people are going, do you think we can do some face-to-face events to meet up with each other? And because I've worked in marketing and I had done a lot of events management in my former church life, I've now left organised religion, but I learnt a lot of skills around programming and event management and coordination. So I'm just applying that skills base, and then the pandemic hit and the national tour of events got put on hold. But yeah, just cranking it up again. So some of the stories, like one of the last, I now offer, in order to fund the events and my time, that it's a lot of time to put into coordinating those, as well as run a counselling and coaching practice. I now offer sponsorship tables for providers or startups or sole traders, registered or non-registered in the NDIS space, to showcase their business, and the funding from those sponsorships helps me to have the time and resources to put into coordinating those events. At the Parramatta event, one of the sponsors had said, you know, they really didn't have many clients as a new startup, and it's very expensive to market your business and to really drill down on who is your target customer and how do you reach those stakeholders in the space. And their testimony was they came back and they said that they got a lot of interest and a lot of traction after being showcased at the event with an interview, and getting some bookings coming in. So finding their tribe. And so, yeah, it's very satisfying work to help startups who are ethical and have adequate qualifications and experience to be able to provide disability supports for people.
Fantastic. So you have groups also for, I believe, for families of participants in the NDIS. And, you know, what's been a standout story from your time looking after those groups?
Well, they're all in one. So in the NDIS network groups, they're advertised as provider groups, but naturally I had a lot of requests for participants and their carers to join as well, because they wanted to find out who are the new businesses in their area, in their state or their local district.
Okay.
And I find that carers tell me they join the group and they didn't know that there were hundreds and thousands of new businesses that they can tap into, they can meet up with and interview, or they can book, a home visit for, and they can check them out and decide. It gives them more choice and control around which providers they want to tap into, but also housing providers, daily living providers, yoga, counselling, the sky's the limit for all their daily needs.
So everything under the one banner.
Yeah.
For them to tap into. That's amazing. So, you touched on housing providers. So you've got a few SDA providers in there and SIL providers. So anybody who's in a little niche area of SDA housing, they can still come to you. Is there areas where people can find a home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is anyone doing that sort of advertising on the...
Yeah. So I guess the Facebook groups, I encourage to have a bit of engagement, bit of general discussion about topical issues for NDIS and people's experiences, whatever they're wanting to share. A lot of people post questions asking, and someone might say, I'm looking for an SDA provider in a certain suburb, and please post your vacancies down below. So that a lot of support coordinators will put posts out to say, I need this type of service in this district, and they get quite a bit of traction. And so it's a good way to network.
That's
and
great,
get to know.
I think I think there's a lack of knowledge of where people can go to find housing, whether it's SDA or SIL housing. We get a number of queries coming through us. Someone's looking for a house, and there are some great avenues out there. For example, Housing Hub and Nest, and there's a few others. So, but obviously yours is another avenue is always available for people to connect in, and it's a little more personal, I'd imagine.
Yeah, people sort of get to build relationships. Yeah, because you see their faces on there. It's just another avenue to connect in and get to know what's available, post your vacancies. And there's not too many places where you can promote your SDA vacancies for free.
There aren't too many, no.
So it is a platform.
So it comes from both sides.
Yeah, it's a place where you can promote for free to a very targeted audience.
Definitely, right. So where do you see this going over the next couple of years?
Well, it's my community development project, just rolling out, cranking up the events, going up to Queensland shortly and then down to Victoria. So doing the eastern coast of Australia. And eventually we'll see what happens. Watch this space as to where it goes. I mean, I'm looking at potentially recruiting staff to crank it up even further, and looking at putting on some counsellors and coaches to expand that those core services of Whole Warrior Solutions.
Wonderful. So do you have any other avenues that Whole Warrior Solutions are working in apart from this obviously very huge time-consuming social network organisation? Other small
the core
offshoots?
business of Whole Warrior Solutions is to support survivors of trauma who have grief and loss, and it may be developmental trauma, because obviously I've worked a long time in child protection and I have a lived experience around surviving my own childhood traumas, and I want people to be able to connect in with very ethical services and counsellors, therapists and coaches who are very trauma informed. And even I'm also coaching providers around clinical practices around trauma informed methods in which they can come alongside vulnerable people. So there's, I'm cranking up the training a little bit within the coaching. Fantastic. And I also draw on my marketing background. So I have a coaching package of 5 provider coaching sessions that people can work out how to attract their first 10 customers, but also how to provide a ethically and person-centred approach to providing those services, but having good systems in place where they can run their business, so having a digital office. So there's some of the services that are offered at Whole Warrior Solutions.
Oh, fantastic. Obviously, we will have some links in the podcast description of how you can contact and join some of these groups, connect with some people that are going to help you out, whatever it is that you're looking for in the NDIS world. Is there anything else any thoughts you'd like to leave us with? Anything else you'd like to let us know about what you do and how we can help more people find out about you?
Thank you. Well, my website is wholewarriorsolutions with an s.com.au, and I just encourage all workers in this space to keep working on continuing professional development, to try our best to have a person-centred approach, because every family and participant that we work with has different and unique needs, and treating every case as unique and offering that person-centred approach. And I think it's also about worker self-care and being self-aware of our potential burnout levels when we're working. We're coming alongside people who are experiencing often great suffering, and we're, as a workforce, we're at risk of vicarious trauma and taking on some of those traumas. So I just encourage people who work in the space to really look after yourself, make sure you try and have some balance in life. And for those entrepreneurs running a small business as well, that's really crucial to prevent burnout. So that's my takeaway message for you.
Oh, for sure. And have you got any events or anything coming up that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, I do. I've got one coming up on the Central Coast on the 2nd of September, and that's a Friday, and that will be in Yarramalong, the beautiful Yarramalong Valley, and featuring an equine provider, Blue Sun Equine Connections, and we're having a 3-course sit-down lunch with a mini expo for that one. There's a couple of sponsorship tables available for that one left. And then we're going out to Penrith on the 30th of September. So having a beautiful 2-course lunch and a mini expo at that event. Then we're just in the planning for October for Queensland and November for Melbourne. So if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out via my website.
Fantastic, and we will definitely have that information for you to look at in the description, as I said. So,
Great.
Well, networker extraordinaire, Tania Gorry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Debbie.
And telling us a little bit. You're doing something very unique in this space, and to bring together people from all around Australia and providing a space for them to connect on that, in that social environment, and then take it out to a face-to-face situation as well. So if people can make it to one of these events to meet some people, like-minded people who are also looking to get assistance and help and ideas on how to take their business forward. And I guess also if you're a family of a participant or a participant, whatever it is that you're looking for, all those connections can be discovered through your incredible networks.
Well, thank you. Yes, everyone's invited to the events, the participants, carers, teachers, COS and LACs, and of course different providers. And we do incorporate a segment on self-care at the events. We actually usually have a singing bowl segment at the start to set some nice frequencies, set a good intention for the event. And it just relaxes people when they come to do some networking, because the introverts can get a bit shy to come into a room full of people. So we try to make it a really friendly, approachable event where, people can just come as they are.
Fantastic. That sounds awesome.
Well, thank you for the opportunity today, Debbie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. We're thrilled to have you on the show. And look forward to doing it again down the track.
Appreciate the work you guys are doing in the housing space and providing suitable housing for a whole range of different participants.
Absolutely, and it's hugely needed, and there's such a massive undersupply of adequate, suitable things. So, slowly but surely we're getting there bit by bit.
Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay then, Tanya, well, thank you, and talk to you soon.
Pleasure. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.